Hello Poetry Pals, welcome back to another video. This week I am talking to you about sonnets. Yes, for this week's video I am returning to the How to Write a Poem series, and I've decided that I am going to take it in the direction of focusing on different forms, looking at what those forms are, what characterises each form of poem, and then telling you how to write it, or at least how I go about writing it. And the first one in this series is sonnets. Now, for those of you that know me will know that I did my undergrad dissertation on sonnets and their development throughout English history. So I know quite a bit, wrote a lot of words about it. Turns out 10,000 words isn't enough words to write about sonnets because I ended up having to cut that shit down so much. So for this video, I'm not gonna bore the pants off you too much. I'm just gonna show you the sort of basics and talking about sort of what makes a sonnet a sonnet. Plot twist. Pretty much every rule can be broken. If you call it a sonnet, it's a sonnet. I am going to split this video into two because I have a lot to say about sonnets. Most of the other videos in this series will probably be one video, but this one's split into two. Let's get started. So I did draw most of my notes here and we'll be talking along with that. You will notice that the first word is written in a different pen, and then I realised that it was a shit pen and we had to swap twice. So sonnets is from the Italian for little song. They are traditionally about unrequited love. They are normally 14 lines long and they are in iambic pentameter, mostly. Even Shakespeare didn't stick to that one. There are two main rhyme schemes, the Italian and the English rhyme scheme, and there is a volta, which means turn. Volta can occur halfway through the poem or towards the end with the rhyming couplet. The idea of a structure of a sonnet is that you introduce an idea or an argument and then attempt to develop or resolve it. Yes, there are two main rhyme schemes, Italian or Petrarchan and Elizabethan or Shakespearean, and I'll be going into those in a bit more detail in a second. Obviously they started in Italy with Petrarch and the other Renaissance poets and were brought over into Britain in the early 16th century by a group of poets, one of which, the most notable, is Sir Thomas Wyatt, who wrote Whoso List to Hunt. If you want to get nerdy on that. On that old school sonnet, Whoso List to Hunt is a great one. So Italian sonnets have the rhyme scheme A, B, B, A, B, B, A, C, D, E, C, D, E. Now the order of those last ones tend to vary a tiny bit, but what that means is it's split into an octave and a sestet, which means one block of 8 lines and one block of 6 lines. Obviously on the page they are normally presented as one block, but that division is important because after the first 8-line chunk is normally where the volta happens in an Italian sonnet. So the thing about Italian sonnets is that they only have 5 rhymes, which when you're writing in Italian makes it quite easy because a lot of words in Italian rhyme, as in a lot more than English words anyway. The Elizabethan sonnet has a rhyme scheme that goes A, B, A, B, C, D, C, D, E, F, E, F, G, G. So this is split into 4 quatrains, that's groups of 4 lines followed by a rhyming couplet. And the volta can occur either after line 8, like it does in the Italian one, or with the rhyming couplet, which means that some sonnets actually have, you could claim, 2 voltas, one after the first 8 lines establishing and developing an argument, then you have the next quatrain which twists it slightly, and then the final couplet wraps everything up in a nice bow. The couplet allows for a final resolution that Italian sonnets do not. This is obviously one that was favoured by Shakespeare, as some people call it the Shakespearean rhyme scheme. And you may have noticed there's a few more letters in there, which means it allows for 7 rhymes. Personally, I do find Elizabethan sonnets much easier to write. Since the 16th and 17th centuries, sonnets have been written about on all sorts, not just unrequited love. Keats was not a fan of the sonnet, and in his poem On the Sonnet said that it chained English verse. Wordsworth claimed that sonnets can teach you writing discipline, and I happen to agree with him. I definitely recommend reading his sonnet Nuns Fret Not in Their Narrow Room, and it's talking about how when you are of sundry moods and you're struggling to write, having a very strict form in which to crystallise your thoughts and feelings can be really useful. However, rules get broken left, right and centre in the sonnet game, and ever since, as you get more and more modern, people break more and more rules. Someone of note that is definitely worth checking out is a sonneteer in the 19th century called George Meredith, who wrote a collection of 16-line sonnets about the breakdown of his marriage. And the argument goes, or at least what I believe, is those extra 2 lines represent what happens after that first initial passionate love. This is what happens afterwards, and actually marriages fall apart. Nice one, George Meredith. No, but seriously, that collection is amazing and you should go and check it out. More contemporary poets that are definitely worth checking out for their sonneteers is Carol Ann Duffy, who actually wrote a sonnet about Shakespeare in her World's Wife series called Secondhand Bed. That's definitely worth checking out. And also Don Patterson, 40 Sonnets. Really goes quite far a long way to deconstruct the sonnet form and really muck about with it and stretch it to as far as it will go. So yeah, Don Patterson, definitely worth checking out. If you're in Bristol and a pal, I will lend you my copy. So that's my introduction to sonnets, or Sonnets 101. Next week I will demonstrate how I go about writing sonnets, because it can, you know, I'll show you the sort of variation on how I normally go about writing a sonnet, and maybe I'll even write a new one, or maybe I'll share one with you. Maybe I'll even read you an example from my dissertation so that you can see how it's not done. But yeah, I will definitely be showing you next week how to go about writing one of these bastards. If you've written a sonnet and it is online somewhere for me to read or listen to, chuck the link in the comments. I want to hear about it. Thanks very much. Bye. Kid. Oh.